Since the New Stone Age, hundreds of generations have lived on the Ukrainian lands. Deep knowledge, traditions, mythology, language, symbolism were passed down from generation to generation. These information markers are very decisive for each nation. They allow us to understand who we are and what we're living for. For thousands of years, this intergenerational transfer of information changed and was supplemented. Who were our great-grandfathers? Do we remember them? Who do we turn to for answers? Who lived on this land before us? Who will come and settle on our land tomorrow? What unites us? Is there a connection between us? Step by step, we will plunge into the past, holding onto the thread that permeates the millennia. So we highly recommend that you stop, listen, and open your eyes to see the obvious. There is an opinion that in 4 to 6 years after the bees disappear from the planet Earth, people will also disappear.
Від 4 до 6 років взагалі не стане людини. Зараз багато.
Nowadays, very many people have become interested in these divine insects. What exactly very much depends on them.
Чому саме від неї так багато залежить?
Бджола вважалася посланницею Бога.
The bee has for centuries been considered God's messenger. God took pity on the human race and gave it a bee. That's why the symbol of a bee is so popular on ritual towels.
Це казали
A bee was considered God's creation and it was highly respected. A bee was also said to be the only creature to make food for its own survival. And also it provides God with wax to make candles, and homeowners and their children with presents on special holidays.
Дітям на гостинця.
Бджола нас багато чому вчить.
A bee teaches us a lot. It teaches us to treat it as an equal creature.
До себе як до рівного. Вона все це робить так, що
And this science seems to go very subtly unnoticed. In fact, it also gives humankind an example of how one should live on the planet Earth to go unnoticed.
люди, ви теж маєте жити тут так, щоб вас мало хто бачив.
Україна медова країна.
Ukraine is truly a land of milk, but also honey. Domestic beekeepers produce a lot of honey. Most of the honey is produced in frame hives, but there is also organic honey.
Звичайно, є ще мед органічний.
Organic honey is not gathered by bees on agricultural lands, rather in the wilderness, and then people process it using modern technology.
Переробили оціми, скажімо, сучасними технологіями. І є мед дикий.
There is also wild honey. So this is our wild honey. Bees produce from 2 to 4 kilograms of it on average.
Вулики 2-4 кілограми. Але вони його виготовляють.
Their honey is of extremely high quality and is therefore conducive to good health. Bees swallow honey many times. Then they spit it out and swallow it again. That's the reason that it has various enzymes.
Збирають не тільки ось оцей підконосів мед, але
Also, forest beekeepers always said that bees gathered not only nectar honey, but also honey that could be poisonous in its pure form. Bees add it for medicinal purposes because bees cure themselves by using this honey. Marsh rosemary can often be a very poisonous plant as it contains bactericidal properties. For this reason, honey is considered a truly curative medicine.
він дійсно у нас лікувальний.
Можемо говорити про наших.
Let's talk about our native Polesian bees.
Кожна сім'я
Each family has its own character, from absolutely calm to very aggressive. I had one bee family which was impossible to approach.
Такого, що підійти до них неможливо. Але що цікаво,
I bought this family. Neither masks nor gloves helped me.
знайти було неможливо. Але це була сім'я, яку я купив. Там не допомагали ні ці
I specially purchased leather beekeeping gloves in which all beekeepers work. They were made of leather with a long fabric, but they did not help. They sat down and somehow found a hole to sting me.
Тут довгі такі, як оце тканина, не допомагало. Вони все рівно сідали, знаходили шпарину, щоб тебе туди дати тобі.
As soon as I approached them, they flied out and pierced my clothes. Why? I don't know. It was just an aggressive bee family.
Це була просто страшна сім'я. Мені казали, все.
I was advised to get rid of it, as the bees could sting just about anyone. Despite this, I kept this family.
Я їх все рівно залишив. Я розумію, що це тренер, який...
I understood that they acted like a coach who would train me very well.
Я вам скажу, що з часом вона...
After time, this family of bees became kinder. Later, its bees changed their queen.
Час пройшов, вона подобрішала, а потім...
The fact is that a lot depends on the queen. If you change the queen, the bees will change in a month or more and will behave completely differently.
Так що все залежить від матки. Якщо поміняти матку, то бджоли з часом там за місяць-півтора поміняються і будуть зовсім інші бджоли. Мені було цікаво все-таки...
I was interested not to change the queen myself, but to learn to coexist with this swarm, just to see if they wanted to change their queen.
Співіснувати. І щоб вони самі її змінили. Ну, з часом це вийшло.
Over time it turned out, and the next queen that appeared was completely different and allowed me to work with it without wearing gloves.
Мабуть, вони мене і навчили до інших бджіл підходити.
They were the ones who taught me to approach bees in a certain state.
Якщо хочеш до них ходити, ну, ось так, от, та ще й повністю роздягнутим, перед тим, як до них йти,
When you are at rest, you merge into one with them.
і ти можеш з ними тоді, ти одне ціле. Як в тому фільмі про Мауглі, ми з тобою одної крові.
We be of one blood, thou and I, as Mowgli said. You put your thoughts in order, you enter their energy circle, you don't bother them, and you become a part of them.
Це коло їхнє енергетичне, ти їм не заважаєш, ти майже свій.
Позаду
Behind me there is a vertical bee tree. There are bee trees that are placed vertically on the tree, and there are those which remain in a horizontal position. From a totally technological standpoint, they are similar, as our ancestors like to say.
але ось цей тип борти, як казали в минулому, лежаки медять, але дурні їх
Bee trees gives honey, and fools keep an eye on them.
полюбляли лаконічно так сказати, за чим дуже велике мало бути пояснення, але його не було. Ну, ось такий тип борти, він більш націлений на продукування меду.
This type of bee tree is good for honey producing, but not for bee breeding. And the vertical bee tree is aimed at breeding. He estimated that the balance between vertical and horizontal bee trees should be 50-50.
Достатньо меду. Чому?
Then there will be enough honey, while fools keep an eye on them. Horizontal bee trees can lead to a shortage of swarms. Today, half of all bee trees are empty.
У нас незаселених бджіл. Ну, цикл
The cycle of a forest beekeeper is the following. In winter, having enough time, they make a bee tree. It is dried, and then it is planted in the forest.
виставлялася в лісі. Весною
In the spring, when it gets warmer and bees become active, it is necessary to cut honeycombs from the bottom to freshen them.
соти. Чому? Тому що
If they are not freshened, the honeycombs will become dark and unsuitable for use because bees will lay larvae in them.
соти будуть темніші і з часом непридатні для використання.
В давнину мед
In ancient times, people gathered honey twice a year in the autumn months of September or October, and in spring. The current spring honey is far from the old one.
І весною. От те, що зараз називають весняний мед, це зовсім не те, що тоді був весняний мед. Весняним медом раніше називали той мед, який перезимував.
Spring honey was called the honey that overwintered and remained after the wintering of bees.
І тоді, коли вони вже почали
And then when bees brought new nectar,
оті залишки, які перезимували,
those leftovers that overwintered and ripened became genuine spring honey. I am sure that it was so.
справжній весняний мед. Я думаю, що саме так і було.
Now, as soon as bees bring nectar in the month of May, it is immediately extracted and sold to consumers who come to the local bazaars.
Бортна бджола, вона доволі агресивна. Бортники це...
While a wild bee is quite aggressive, forest beekeepers, on the contrary, greatly appreciate the properties of this particular bee, because they must protect themselves from martins, woodpeckers, and uninvited guests. And in cold weather, it is virtually impossible to open beehives. If you try, the bees will attack strongly.
Бджоли вас будуть сильно атакувати. В травні, коли виходять рої, бджоли починають розмножатися, бортники йдуть і є...
In May, when swarms of bees fly out of horizontal bee trees and the time comes to breed, forest beekeepers begin to make hives.
Заняття таке, вони підготовують для, приманюють ось цих бджіл.
This is not a simple activity. They prepare hives, attracting bees to them.
З їхньої точки зору вулик.
Bees choose the best beehive from their point of view and fly there with the swarm and settle. And so the process goes on until the autumn.
Осінню
In autumn, when wintering begins, bees do not lay larvae. There is only honey in the combs. They rise up along the combs of the bee tree and from a tightly knit ball in which they warm each other and hibernate through the winter.
дуже тісний клуб, в якому вони одна одну зігрівають і зимують. І в цей час...
And at this time, a forest beekeeper comes and cuts the remaining combs with honey from below. He cuts off in the hive to the part of the bee tree head where bees will winter. This is the entire cycle.
Де в голові має зимувати ось оцей рій з бджолами. Ось оце якби весь цикл.
Кожна бджолосім'я
Each bee family is a totally separate organism.
організм. Назва
It is wrong to call swarms a bee family. This is not a family, it is a single organism.
це єдиний організм.
In order to preserve honey, many beekeepers decimate male bees. This is not the right move, because female bees decide themselves how many male bees they need in a swarm. They decide themselves how to live and how to reproduce.
Вони все
And swarming is a natural process. For this is refreshing and recovery. Those involved in industrial apiary consider this unacceptable. Indeed, they take a completely different approach.
А звичайно, ті, хто займаються промисловими пасіками, для них це недопустимо. У них зовсім інший підхід, їм потрібні однакові.
They need similar hives, similar families, tonnage of honey and similar frames. So this is a completely different approach.
Зовсім інший підхід.
I mean, communication with a bee not only provides you with honey and bee products, but it changes your mindset.
Не просто тобі дає там мед і бджолопродукти, а вона змінює твою свідомість. Я можу сказати,
Since I have discovered beekeeping, I began to look at the world through so-called bee sensory organs.
в якійсь мірі через очі, через органи.
I began to look differently at herbs and bee plants. I began to study what I missed in my school and university years.
Я почав вивчати те, що я не вивчав в школі, там, в університеті, а саме
And bees led me to these changes. If it were my will, I would introduce beekeeping lessons at school to study the space in which we live and the natural environment in depth.
вивчення простору, в якому ми живемо, для поглибленого вивчення природного середовища. Це
Beekeeping helps us understand the world we live in and how we can interact with it much easier and harmoniously. That is, if it was my call.
бджолі. Ну, це якби моя воля була.